Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here. Now, I mean, you've clicked on this video, you already know what I'm going to say. By modern standards, the Nintendo Switch is considered a little bit on the weak side. But come on, that's just because it came out in 2017. It's old. That's the reason, right? Right? Wrong. And why are you so confident all of a sudden? Some people, through various irreversible means, have discovered that the Switch is in fact far more capable than Nintendo is letting it be. That goes even more so for the Switch OLED and later models of the Switch. So, why? Efficiency. If that's enough for you, you can just leave the video. But if it's not, or you just like the sound of my voice, then stick around. Why not? But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Right, so the original Switch, the one that was released in 2017 and before the battery upgrade model, it's a neat little device, isn't it? It can play all the games that the later models can, and in exactly the same way. But it turns out that there's more going on under the hood than you might initially think. Yes, it's true that the Tegra X1 that resides within the Switch, that's its system on a chip, it's SoC, but Nintendo, the fiends, they've been intentionally hobbling it. They don't want us to play games at higher frame rates and things like that. Obviously, that's not the case. But things do get even more interesting with the OLED and the Switch Lite and the later revision of the Switch, because they are actually using the Tegra X1 Plus, which, according to Nvidia, can be up to 25% more performant than the standard X1. Sorry, I can't keep a straight face with that one. Whenever you hear any claim like that from a manufacturer, always take it with a pinch of salt, because it's probably 25% more performant in one extremely specific instance, and that gets less and less, you know, depending on how many others you look at. You only have to look at Apple's graphs whenever they announce a new processor to see what I mean. But even if it was only a little bit more powerful, why is it that games run in exactly the same way on the OLED as they do on the standard Switch? And why would Nintendo make that decision? You may already know the answer, but not actually realize it. So you know that revision of the Switch that just looked exactly the same, came in a different box, and Nintendo was like, hey, it's got a better battery life. And you sort of think, oh, it's got a bigger battery? No, it's all down to the Tegra X1 Plus. Amazingly, the battery inside every single Nintendo Switch system, with the exception of the Lite, is exactly the same size, 16 watt-hours. It took me far too long to find that number out. I don't like milliamp hours. I like watt hours. What that basically means is that the battery inside the Nintendo Switch can deliver 16 watts of power for an hour. Or, this is the clever bit, it could deliver 8 watts for 2 hours. 16 watt hours. It's a unit of measurement. And as anyone with a phone or tablet or anything like that will know, when it comes to portable devices, battery life is king. And the reason that the more modern Switch consoles, including the OLED and all the others, use this Tegra X1 Plus is not because it is more performative, but because it is significantly more efficient. Nintendo has some information on their website detailing the power consumption of the OLED and the Lite and all that sort of thing. The only thing is that it doesn't actually list anything for the original Switch, which was important for my comparison, so I had to run my own tests. Now, I don't personally have the skill set to confidently open up a Nintendo Switch. Well, I do, it's putting it back together that's the difficult part. And I don't have the equipment or knowledge in order to be able to see how much power is being drawn from the battery. I'm just not that clever. So I had to get a little bit creative at the cost of accuracy and scientificness. So what I did is I charged both switches up to 100% until there was no draw coming from the power using this. Honestly, this was the most convenient thing for me. So when the battery screen said that the consoles were drawing 0 watts, then I knew that it was time to start my test. So I started up Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, got 8 CPUs to fight at once to sort of, I mean, that's maybe not the best stress test, but it was the easiest. And then I could see how much the consoles were drawing from the battery in order to power itself. Now, of course, it will be doing things like topping up the battery and little things like that. That's why I said this isn't entirely scientific, but it's as close as I can get. And I'm curious, go down to the comments now and predict how many watts you think the original Nintendo Switch will draw according to this setup. Go on, I'll wait for a moment. Actually pause the video, I want to carry on. So I ran the test a few times, and the overall result was that the original Nintendo Switch drew between 5 and 9 watts, averaging at around about 7 watts of current, which I don't need to tell you, that's not a lot of juice. Oh, I forgot to mention it's at the lowest brightness setting as well, because I thought that was the fairest comparison between the two. I might be wrong. A 7-watt draw means that the Switch's battery will last for around about 2 hours, give or take. Obviously, it's not 7 watts all the time. It goes up, it goes down. It depends on what the Switch is doing. I'm using estimates. So that's okay. 2 hours of Smash, not bad. Now let's have a look at the OLED. So I ran the same test on the OLED, 8 CPUs, brightness at the lowest setting, and the end result was between 3 and 6 watts. And realistically, most of the time, it was just at 4. 4 watts! That means that the OLED can run for 4 hours on exactly the same battery as the original Switch. Realistically, that's nearly double. Nearly. That's why the OLED specifically is so weak. It's so that it can keep going for longer and yet still play fantastic games like Pikmin 4, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario RPG, The Thousand Year Door, all of those games on 4 watts. That's ridiculous. If that doesn't mean much to you, let me give you some context. A humble light bulb. This is a very modern, very efficient light bulb. It is about 800 lumens, which, well, let me just say, I would describe it as above mood lighting, but it's not bright. I don't like bright lights in my house. Present company accepted. This light bulb, this not especially very efficient light bulb, but still just a single light bulb, uses nearly 6 watts of power, 5.9 watts. So the Switch OLED uses only 2/3 of the power of this light bulb. And if you're curious, these two lights can draw up to 45 watts each. They're pretty powerful. You want more context? You want something a bit more comparable? Okay. What about the Steam Deck? Lovely bit of kit, more powerful than the Switch by far, and it's got a bigger battery. How much does it draw? This test was a lot easier because you can just ask the Steam Deck and it'll tell you. Makes life a lot easier. Load of information online says that the Steam Deck is 15 watts. That's not entirely true. That's what the SoC can draw, but there are other things like the screen. I loaded up Doom Eternal. I thought the Super Gore NES would be a good example, and I managed to actually go beyond its maximum draw. I managed to get 26 watts or 26 point something, but realistically that was only for a bit. It was between 20 and 25 watts. I just made another discovery about the Steam Deck. It uses more power to idle than the Switch does at full whack. Don't get me wrong, I'm not poo-pooing the Steam Deck. This thing is still really efficient, like really, really efficient. Certainly compared to like modern PC gaming tower. God, you can tell I don't do a lot of PC gaming. Those things can draw 100 watts at idle. That's the same as a human at idle. I googled that. But it's impossible to deny that the Switch is what, 4, maybe 5 times as efficient as the Steam Deck, an already really efficient thing? It beggars belief, honestly. And this actually brings me on to another point about the Switch 2 and the rumored specs and things like that. Due to various shipping things and publicly available information, people have built up what they believe to be a pretty good idea of how powerful the Switch 2 will be. And yeah, that's a legitimate analysis and everything like that. I'm not trying to discredit it, but I will say, a pinch of salt needed. Because even the current Switch doesn't utilize all the power available to it. It doesn't mean that whatever system on a chip it will be in the Switch 2 will be fully utilized. It will no doubt be kind of downclocked a little bit, sort of held at bay, reined in order to make sure that that battery lasts as long as feasibly possible. So there you have it. The real reason the Switch is so weak is not because it's old, although obviously that's a factor. It's because Nintendo want you to be able to game as long as possible. And come on, it's a portable device. I've said it in the video before. I'm gonna say it again. Battery life is king. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you see how efficiently you can get to that subscribe button, click it, and then, you'll be subscribed. And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. I tried playing Starfield on the Steam Deck as well, and I found out that it's no longer, actually supported. It just crashed.
Oh.